RTII stands for Response to Instruction and Interventions. It's a way of thinking and a way of organizing how you do business as a school so that you can more accurately and proactively program for the unique and individual needs of all of your students.
The exciting part about RTI is that it's really looking now at the whole system, the whole school building, not just our struggling learners.
RTII is a process. It's a way of thinking. And the way in which we think about RTII, we think about a multi-tiered system of interventions. Most of the time, RTII, we think of 3 tiers. Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3. It doesn't have to be done that way, but many schools do that. Starting with the base of the triangle, most of that triangle, we call that a Tier 1 intervention. That means, what are classroom teachers doing every day in their classrooms? In the course of what teachers do, you really should expect 80 to 85% of your students should reach those target academic benchmarks based upon what a teacher does. But you know you're going to have some kids who could need an extra level of support. Tier 2 is about 10 to 15% of those students who might need an extra level of support, not special education programs, but an extra level of support either with a classroom teacher, maybe with a reading specialist, depending upon what those needs are. And then Tier 3, we're talking about maybe 5%, 10% maximum of your students that need truly intensive interventions. The school district has helped us out because they have a very clear assessment schedule for all of our grade levels, and that's district-wide. So we have 2 things. You have actually 3 things. You have the first is called the universal screening. This is an assessment a series of assessments that you would give to all students at the beginning of the year. We call them universal because all children are going to take those. The second part are progress monitoring tools. So if a child is struggling, you don't want to wait 3 months and then test them again. You want to frequently see the progress that they're making. Small assessments given every week to see how they're doing. If it's a Tier 2 child, you might assess bi-weekly or maybe even monthly. But you don't want to wait 3 months or 6 months. That's not what you want to do. That's progress monitoring. The last is benchmark assessing. Benchmarks are where do you want children to be at certain benchmarks or spots in the school year? We do that about 3 times. Because at the elementary schools, we're on a trimester schedule. And so at the end of each trimester and the beginning of the next trimester, we have our benchmark assessments. So we can see, based upon on-grade level benchmark tests in reading and math, how are our children doing? A set time in each grade level's day, 45-minute block of time, we call it that win period, that what I need period, okay? And that involves our classroom teachers as well. So during that time, a classroom teacher is pulling a small group of kids to work on a particular skill or need, okay? Reading specialists are doing that. I also have certified instructional assistants who also pull groups and do that. That's where we pull some of our Title I reading assistants can help. And by doing that, students aren't, quote unquote, missing instruction. Because during that time, everyone is placed into a smaller group to get what they need at that time.
Part of the task and the evolution in the last 4 or 5 years has been helping teachers to understand the data. And we then meet as a group. So we're given time to spend about 2 hours with each grade level twice a year. We might even do it a 3rd time this year to look at the whole picture of the 4th grade group or the 3rd grade group. And then from there, we work collaboratively as a team to identify those children in need of Tier 2 supports or Tier 3 supports and what those supports should look like. When something's not working, we need to come back to the drawing board, work as a team, and solve that problem, whether it's a scheduling issue, a communication issue, or an instructional issue.
We're looking at the data and making instructional decisions based on it. So I think that is very crucial and very important. And the other part I feel is that we have a shared ownership for the performance of all our students. Their mastery and how they perform is a celebration for all of us, and we all take an ownership on that. I think that collaborative nature has really helped our RTI model be successful.
My role in our RTII model is to provide our Tier 3 level of behavioral supports. Classroom teachers fill out a form, and they take a look at maybe the top 5 kids who are presenting with some behavioral needs in class. And then Eileen, our psychologist, and I take a look at the students who have been identified, and we look at what level of support the students need. And that's for our Tier 2 and Tier 3 level of supports.
It's extra teaching, it's not replacement teaching. I'm not replacing their teaching in the regular classroom. This is just like another extra push. I also diagnose and give assessments. And then what we do as a group and even individually is we are constantly looking at the data and reviewing the data. We are providing direct instruction on specific needs to the child.
One of the quantifiable changes that we have seen in the process is we often have higher numbers of children needing Tier 2 or Tier 3 intervention in the primary grades, the children who've just come to school. As we've moved up, we have so few children now being identified by the time they're in 4th grade. The majority of the kids, like closer to 95% of our children, are doing well with Tier 1 supports. And our IE period is really focused on extension and enrichment because we have so few children needing Tier 2 or Tier 3.
I think with the RTI model, the students can get help promptly. As soon as the assessments indicate that a student or students are struggling with something, we have the resources, the interventions, and the time to give that help right away.
Because we have front-loaded some of those supports and been more nimble in how we accurately diagnose and prescribe the interventions for those supports, when students get to 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, we notice that those children don't need necessarily that level of support. And so I'm able to actually then redeploy those same human resources toward working with our more advanced learners.
RTI, I hope, is here to stay. It's by far the best model that we've seen. Every other model only focused on the struggling learners. This model focuses on every child in our building.